right, so we're back here on another Couch Coach Live. Got a special guest in the building, my guy D Hop from the Spotlight Raiders Talk. What's going on, man?
What's going on, man? How you feeling about your your given, not earned W? How
Hey,
you feeling about that, man? How
I'm
you
okay.
feeling,
I'm,
man?
I'm okay, man. Hey, I'm here. I'm loving the win streak, and then what a what a crazy finish of that game. One of the things I look at from the standpoint that it shouldn't even got to that point, honestly, because just the simple fact we had so much points that was left off that board. So
Right, right.
I totally understand, man, to be on the other end and the jersey pool. I put it that way.
Yeah, that was blatantly a PI. And come on, you got. I know y'all won the game, and the game is over. But admit that
I
was a
mean,
PI.
if somebody tugged on Terry McLaurin on one of my guys' jerseys, I've been kind of crying a little foul too. I ain't gonna front. Hey,
I mean,
it
it
is
was
what it is.
blatant though. It was blatant. I understand that if he was close to him and you didn't see the actual stretch of the jersey, that's
Yeah.
fine. But I mean,
Hey.
you saw
Yeah.
the stretch of the jersey. Come on.
Right.
It's
And
all good.
yeah, I know, right? Hey, it is what it is. But yeah, man. So obviously, you know, guys did take that loss on Sunday
Mhm.
against the Washington football team. Now
Yeah.
6-6. Your thoughts on the game? Besides the missed PI call potentially. Yeah.
The Raiders just as a team didn't play up to their potential.
Yeah.
We even without knowing Henry Ruggs is gone for the year. We don't have no 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 Waller was not there. We really didn't have an offensive line all year. So basically the team just played mediocre. The defense played good all three quarters into the fourth quarter. And then, like I said in my morning show, that I'm a big fan of Taylor Heineke. I think Taylor Heineke should be the starter in the future for the Washington football team, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But overall, the game turned out to be good. Derek Carr, only had 10 incompletions, but he stuck in that pocket against a good front four without y'all got Montez Sweat or a Chase Young. And he stood in that pocket. He had 10 incompletions. He was 28 of 38. But it was just a lot of missed throws that Carr had that I wish he could have looked at as well. So it's a lot of factors that come into this loss, even though that we didn't get the PI, even though the ref has some hideous calls here, especially the one on Jonathan Abram. I just didn't understand that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he was going after the tackler, like he wasn't really going after your offensive lineman. I don't know what type of call that was on a defensive player. Like what can you do in the NFL right now? So my
Right.
thing is this, like, the Raiders have been very up and down this year. We look good against the Cowboys. We come back and we ish the bed with the Washington football team, and it just got to be better, man. It just have to be better. What's up, Jordan Long? Jordan Long, I gotta link
Yeah.
up with you, brother, because you're a
Yeah.
Broncos fan. But
Yeah.
at least we competed. Unlike y'all got smoked on Sunday Night Football. I mean, that
Yeah.
was yeah.
Oh, that was terrible. That was terrible. But yeah, like you said, that game it was interesting. Like you said, um, like we talked about it on our Watch the Football cast, the post game, and we was talking about like, as far as we kind of knew that Hunter Winter was going to have a game, but we can
Mhm.
live with that type of situation. Like you said, not having that's pretty much a deep threat. Also, when not having Waller in that
Yeah.
game as well. But to me, I think to even hold you guys 15, I was really kind of like shocked that
Mhm.
we got to that point. I figured, hey, a game be in the 20s. I definitely think that we could hold, especially Derek Carr, who's leading the league
In passing.
in passing. So to me, I figured, hey, this could be kind of somewhat of a situation where it could potentially be a shootout. We kind of envisioned it even in our pregame show about that. But yeah, just another, like you said, another tough, gritty win for this team for Washington. But yeah, so
And let's not forget, Del Rio was the head coach here. He knows Derek
yeah.
Carr.
Yep, and that's what. Yep, and that's what we was talking about. As far as how you think about it, the success of the Raiders post 2003, that Super Bowl run, they only had
It
that
was
one.
that 2016 year
Yep,
with Rio.
yep. Yeah, well, that was their successful season, and honestly, if it weren't for
Yeah.
Derek Carr to get hurt, I mean,
Who
bless
knows?
Connor Cook, but he just didn't get the job done. But like you said,
Right.
it's just that's another thing too, where he was a guy that was there. And I thought he was going to turn that team around, but obviously we know how 2017 kind of went, and then he was let go. But yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely he was another one that that we looked at as far as kind of a factor in this game. We always talk about the return. Like Ron going back to Carolina a few weeks back, and then now Jack Del Rio, even though they were in Oakland at the time, but
Yeah.
the same premise still lies,
Yeah.
still his former
So he had
team.
the same quarterback then, and what we have now. So
Yep.
yeah, I'm kind of one of those guys that I felt as though Jack Del Rio should never got fired, but
Yep.
that's another story for another time.
But I'm glad he here with us. But I know I did too. I was like, especially after that, when you said that one successful year, and then when kind of it went downhill the next year. I hate that they do that to these coaches, where it's just like it's what have you done for me lately business, but
Mm-hmm.
he should have had an opportunity to kind of ride that
To
ship.
bounce back. But
Yeah,
I think the reason why that Del Rio was fired, because the year we went 12-4, our offensive coordinator Bill Musgrave,
yeah,
Jack Del Rio fired him after we went 12-4.
yeah,
So I mean, if you're an owner and a GM and you want to get rid of an offensive coordinator that made your quarterback almost an MVP caliber quarterback
pretty
and only
much.
had 4 losses on the year, and you get rid of him, then that's an issue.
It's gonna raise some
That's an issue.
eyebrows.
But I think he should have, even though we won 6-10 the following year, I think he still should have had a chance to bounce back from that 6-10 year.
Absolutely, yeah. So at 6-6, what the guys thinking as far as guys gonna make the playoffs?
I mean, the Buffalo Bills did lose last night, so
Yeah,
that kind of helped us in some instance. But I'm just not realistically thinking that we're not. I mean, if you look at our remaining schedule, we still got to play the Broncos again. We still got to play the Chargers again. We still got to play the Chiefs. And then we got to play Indianapolis. That's another hot team that's on the outside looking in. And then you have a Cleveland team that's in a tough division with the AFC North. So all those games are tough. The only game I probably see us winning is probably Cleveland. It's a possibility that we could beat the Chargers, but if we look this way, against what we look like in the Giants game, what we look like in this game, I don't see us winning any more games. Honestly, I'm just being a realistic Raider fan. People could say what they want. Oh, if we win out, I would love for us to win out. But the Kansas City Chiefs, we got to go to KC this week. I don't see that as a win. I just don't. So playoff implications is very, very doubtful. A lot of things going to have to happen for us to get in.
yeah, and like you said, Buffalo kind of helped as well too in that regard. But the thing about it is, at least down the stretch, you got teams that are pretty much in the same position as you are. Like you look at
Mhm.
Cleveland there, Indianapolis, they're kind
Mhm.
of skirting their way in, and that's the thing. If you have those, if you can take care of business, then it's
I'm really concerned
it
about
potentially.
those divisional games though, like with
Yeah,
the Broncos, then the
yeah,
Chargers just beating the Bengals this weekend. Even though the Broncos lost to Kansas City, they still in it because there's really nobody in our division that has the real runaway with this division. Even though the Chiefs have 8 wins, but the Chargers right behind them with 7 wins.
right.
So they still got to play each other again. So it's with the AFC West, it's up in the air for anyone to take the division at this point.
Yeah, big time, big time. So I asked you the $1 million question: is Derek Carr the long-term solution for this team?
I want him to be the long-term solution for this team. But I'm gonna say it like I said on every other live stream, the Raider Nation do not appreciate Derek Carr. And if I am Derek Carr, I would not want to be a Raider next season. And I'm just being as a Raiders fan, I'm just being real. I love me some Derek Carr. Yes, Derek Carr hasn't done a lot in the 8 years that he was here. But if you look at the 8 years that he was here, name a top tier wide receiver outside of Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper and Nelson Aguilar and Alway in 8 years. You know what I'm saying? So it's like what the Raiders have done for Derek Carr to be successful in a lot of a lot of Raider fans are like, oh, it's time to get rid of Carr, bring in Mariota. It's time to get rid of Derek Carr this way and that way. While even though that he's leading the league in passing, you still want to get rid of Derek Carr. So if I am Derek Carr right now, knowing his contract is up in 2023, I would say try to get out of there after this season and go somewhere where you're appreciated and you want to win. And I mean, I love Derek Carr. I think he's he's a top 10 quarterback in his league. Probably not top 5, but he's probably he's top 10. He's damn near up. You could put him at 6 or 7. But it's just the Raider Nation. They want him gone because he missed a lot of throws, and Deshaun Jackson was wide open a few times in this game. Zay Jones was wide open a few times in this game. But all quarterbacks do it. All elite quarterbacks do it. And people just say, oh, Carr just have to be this perfect quarterback. I would love for him to be the solution, but the Raiders fans is going to run him out of here. I'm just being honest.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one thing too. And it's funny because we ran a stat on the Thanksgiving game where Derek Carr was on the verge of hitting 30,000 passing yards. And it was almost, I think in less than 125 starts, he joined a league company like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and it's like himself. And that's another thing too, where when you say as far as not being appreciated, and I think that's a league thing as well too. Because when I heard that stat, I was like, you would think that would be something that would be celebrated. I know if it was if there were other quarterbacks in that same type of statistical category, they would blow that up. So
I'm telling you, if y'all ever come to the Spotlight Raiders Talk live streams Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 5 to 7, I'm telling you right now, those Raiders fans they want Derek Carr out because they think Derek Carr plays defense, they think Derek Carr plays wide receiver, they think Derek Carr plays the offensive line. Everything is the reason why we're 6-6 is because of Derek Carr, and that's not the case. This team just does not look great. Overall, including with Derek Carr. Sometimes Derek Carr has bad games. Sometimes Derek Carr has some great games that makes him number 1 in the league. But the fans just don't appreciate him. It's sad.
But and like you said, it's just one of the things we're here. But and it's funny because even talking about watching football guys, the show I do, and we always talk about like as far as what if, and we think about because we've been kind of going back as far as our quarterback play, so we've been kind of like, all right, should we look at Derek Carr? Because we even flirted with the idea like, well, if the price is right, then go for it.
I say go for it too. I mean, he has the weapons. He has a great running back. Your offensive line, which y'all have to re-sign Brandon Sheriff at the end of the year because his contract is up. He's one of y'all cores on that offensive line. And then you got a young Logan Thomas. I understand the torn ACL done for the year, but he's still a up and coming tight end in this league. And Derek Carr could really help out with that, with Washington football team. But me personally, I'm loving Taylor Heineke. I'm sorry. I'm just loving Taylor Heineke. He's young. He came from nothing, and he's turning out to turn his team around, especially with this losing streak. This defense is behind him. And I would love for y'all to go get Carr, but I don't want y'all to take the back seat to Taylor Heineke and his improvement, even though that he almost beat Tom Brady in the playoffs. But y'all started off slow, but now y'all back in the hunt in the NFC East. So it's just like, if he makes the playoffs again, you see that consistency, and I don't know if you still want to go after Carr after that.
Yeah, and like you said, and he got plenty of time to kind of prove himself too. And I like a lot of ours was more so like in the beginning of the season, maybe like in the preseason, because remember we were looking at Ryan Fitzpatrick as like that solution, and we didn't think that Taylor would be in this predicament starting from pretty much from midway in the second quarter to now to present day. So he was always like that quarterback on the shelf if we had a situation where we had a quarterback that was hurt, and he'll come in and spot duty for like maybe 4 or 5 games while the quarterback, heals or what have you. But now he's he's now, the starter for the rest of the year, and then, and potentially in 2022. So yeah, a lot of it is just the timing of it and just how everything just plays out. And
Right.
yeah, so he was a guy that was on our wish list per se. But yeah, so we always talk about the Raiders. We on the show we want to do our previews. We always think about this time of year. We always think about like November, December. We always
Mhm.
look at the Raiders as a team that's really good in the beginning of the season. They kind of turn your heads with some wins here or there. But then by when the clock strikes November, December, we look at this team as like they always, they find ways to lose. So,
Right.
and this is what almost like the third year in a row of this, essentially.
Yeah,
Pretty
it it
much.
it is. It is, and I think
Yeah.
out of these 3rd years in a row, this is one of the worst years
Yeah.
that we went on this stretch in December, and I mean November and December. If you want to be honest, if you look at John Gruden was really had this team together in the beginning of the year until the email thing came out, and everything just fell apart there because Carr loved John Gruden. I wasn't a big fan of him as a fan, but if your quarterback loves his head coach, then that's what it was. And then now you had the Damon Arnett situation where we lost Damon Arnett, where he waving guns on social media, and then now you had Henry Ruggs and the car accident. It was just so much to bear. I thought we bounced back off the Denver game against John Gruden, but once the Damon Arnett and Henry Ruggs thing, and we had to travel to New York with
Yeah.
that on our minds,
Yeah.
it just changed the whole aspect of the season. I think for real, for me personally, I think the Raiders checked out in that game. Carr didn't look his best. His number one receiver was Henry Ruggs. You bring in a Deshaun Jackson that's a little bit older, but he's not really implement into the offense. It's a lot of things that happen. You got to make now. Greg Olsen got a call to plays, and you see it's still looking conservative. Then I didn't understand why Gus Bradley didn't become head coach, and you make a special team coach and Rich Pisaccia as your head coach,
Yeah.
which I didn't understand. That Gus Bradley's been a head coach in this league. Ron Millinari has been a head coach in this league, and he's on this staff. So I'm just not understanding why those two did not take it, the head coaching position. And now Rich Pisaccia is a laid back older guy that doesn't put players under fire. They did say in his presser that he did call out Derek Carr about for the throws and stuff like that. Josh Jacobs called out his team. This is just so much dysfunction right now. I think this is out of the 3 years that we have had this slump. This is the worst year that we had this slump with so much going on. Dysfunctional.
Yeah, and shout out to Derek Carr. I think he's been as far as everything that's going on as far. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one of the kind of reason what we looked at like definitely like midseason, like as far as how the press conferences and how he's been not supportive, but just having a mature take on what's going on with this team. Obviously with the
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Ruggs situation, I think he handled it very well. Like because a lot of people, we just know how it is. You know,
Right.
he showed empathy for both parties, and he understood the nature of it. And
Right.
so that's one of the things I really like a guy like him, which is that's why it really shocks me, like as far as like that type of stuff. That should have gravitated like to a point where you would run through a brick wall for him. The way he said some those comments, I was just
They
really,
feel Raiders fans feel like Derek Carr's not a leader. Like,
I'm just like,
I don't understand it. I don't
I'm
get it.
like, and that's the first thing I seen their leader. That's the when I seen that Derek Carr, he's spoken obviously on a lot of issues
Mm-hmm.
throughout the years, and I've always looked at him as a guy that was very mature and very just very well spoken leader in almost leadership qualities. I seen that in him, so
Yeah.
it's definitely interesting. So I got one more question for you, D Hop. Now I'm obviously I'm a Richmond, Virginia guy. I'm born and raised. I'm
Mhm.
always champion my local guys.
Right.
What in the hell is going on with Cleveland Farrell in Las Vegas? What's going on? What y'all doing to my boy?
Well, I don't know what Gus Bradley is doing to him, in my opinion. I know when we brought in Yannick Ngakwe, I knew uh that Cleveland Farrell was going to be lost in the sauce.
Hmm.
Um at the defensive end situation. Now, when I had my projections, I had Cleveland Farrell starting at D tackle over starting at D end because he's a great run stopper. He's not good against the pass, but he's great against the run. So I really wanted Yannick and Crosby on the inside. I mean, on the outside, because those two is not great against the run. But if you put like a Jonathan Hankins and Cleveland Farrell or a Quentin Jefferson and a Cleveland Farrell or vice versa, you might have something there. But now the Raiders is just making him a rotational player, and you're not getting the best out of him, even though he was on the trading block during the trade deadline, and nobody really didn't want to pick up his contract because his contract is a bit expensive. But I mean, I don't know what the Raiders are doing with him. He's a talent that can get to, like, he could get to the quarterback, but I think he could get to the quarterback being inside instead of outside. In my opinion, I think he's a great talent, but he went from being a starter to a rotational player. I just don't understand it. I wish I could tell you. I have no clue.
I know, and I think my attendance kind of went up against the Raiders in Monday Night Football. He was a healthy scratch, and I'm like, what's going on?
I didn't understand the healthy scratch part. It's the Las Vegas Raiders, man. Like, we went from being a very loyal fan base in Oakland to being a circus at Allegiant Stadium. When I tell you, bro, it was more Washington football team fans than it was Raiders fans. Yes. And you could tell, because even though that we on offense and they trying to get the fans to quiet down, you heard those Washington football team fans yelling and rowling and all that while we were on offense. So it tells, like, Allegiant Stadium, I understand, is Las Vegas. It's a beautiful state. It's beautiful to be there, but it's just not what the Raiders are.
Yeah, and it's funny because you say that, because the first thing I always thought about when, especially when the thought of the Raiders going to Vegas, they're never going to have a home field advantage anymore.
Yeah.
Because you're in a tourist city, and think about it. It's, people up in Northern Virginia, whatever, they can go from Dulles to Vegas, a straight flight, really cheap. And any team, like, think about any team, like if you playing any team that travels well, except for maybe the Chargers.
Right.
For the most part.
That's the only thing for the Raiders, that we do sell out the Charger Stadium. We do it all the time.
Right. But other than that, I mean, that's like, I don't like, versus being in Oakland, where the black hole, where everybody came out, it was really like a home field advantage to the team, but it's crazy how, like you said, as far as the transition from Oakland to Vegas and kind of seeing, what's going on.
It's a beautiful stadium, don't get me wrong, but it just don't have a Raider feel. Like, you want to have a club at the end of an end zone and all the extra stuff that comes with a Allegiant Stadium. It just don't feel like Raiders football. And I got a feeling that when it comes to the players, they don't feel that home field advantage. That's why we struggle at home and we play better away for some reason.
Yeah, big time. So once again, man, appreciate you for coming on. Talking some Raider talk with us, D-Hop. Appreciate it.
You can always have me on, man. Like, I don't care if it's NFL picks or whatever. Just hit me up. Just let me know when and what time.
No doubt.
I will definitely pull up, because I just don't talk Raiders, man. I got you. Else.
We'll probably do some stuff for the Super Bowl and whatever, or the playoffs. We in there. No doubt.
Yeah, definitely. No problem.
I got you, fam. I got you, bro. Absolutely. And before you head out, D-Hop, social media, plug what you got. What you got going on?
I do have a second channel called the Spotlight Sports Network. We are in a partnership with another network called ASAP, All Sports, All Plays. You can follow us on YouTube at Spotlight Sports Network. My personal channel, which is the Raiders channel, is Spotlight Raiders Talk. Instagram, Spotlight Raiders Talk. Twitter, Spotlight RN Talk. And basically that's it. You go find us on Spotlight Sports Network, SL Sports Network on Instagram, SL Sports Network on Twitter. We talk all sports there. So that's basically what we got going on at this moment.
Yep. All right, appreciate you, D-Hop, and we'll talk with you. We'll definitely get some cooking.
Listen, it's all love, man. Y'all family, man. Listen, it's all love.
It's all love.
Y'all enjoy this win, and you know, I'm y'all hold up. Y'all not on the bye this week, right?
No, man, we play Dallas. It's Dallas week, bro.
Come on, get on Dallas. I'm taking Washington
Right.
football team. I'm booking it now. Washington football team beats Dallas.
Appreciate that. I'll holler at you.
All right, brother. See you later.
Man. Appreciate you, man. All right. All right. Definitely huge shout out to our guy D Hop from Spotlight Raiders Talk. And before we get our next guest in the building, we definitely got to give a huge shout out to the good folks at Built Bar. Built Bar is a truly standout among protein bars with its exceptional nutritional profile and so many delicious flavors. Use our promo code Off the Ball, which will provide you, your friends, and family with a 10% discount. So go to their website at builtbar.com and use our promo code for 10% off. And let's bring in my next guest. I got my guy Josh. What's going on, Josh?
How's it going?
I'm good, man. Okay? Yeah, what's going on, man?
It's going. It's a very, very weird week, especially being a Notre Dame fan for football.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
What I find funny is, so I came on your show, was it in April? And and it's funny, and I always think about, we talked about Marcus Freeman. We talked about the addition of Marcus Freeman and the future, and we even talked about the potential of him becoming the new head coach at Notre Dame. And I find it funny now sitting here, doing the math, almost 8 months to the date when I came on your show. And literally now he's a head coach at Notre Dame. So Josh, your thoughts on Marcus Freeman?
Well, I mean, they got the best coach since Lou Holtz, to be honest with you, with Marcus Freeman. Kelly's probably the best coach I've seen, because 2 years before I was even born, they fired Lou Holtz. So motivator.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a motivator finally, because you're talking about the Weiss days, you're talking about the Willinghams, even though I think he got screwed over a little bit there.
Big time.
And you got the Davies. I mean, he had, one or two decent years, and then the rest of that was just trash, kind of like Weiss. And then you had Brian Kelly, who was most of the time up, but he had some years where it was just head scratching. And as a Notre Dame fan, because you have Michigan fans and this and that, just going why are you just going on your back against Brian Kelly? And I'm like, I never really was the huge Brian Kelly guy to begin with, to be honest with you. He snaked his way from Cincinnati to Notre Dame to begin with. So why are we surprised that he did the same thing for LSU? And on my show, I said he might do that for the Bears job, to be honest with you. Yeah. So it's just, I get the $90 million versus the $4 million, but at the same time, the way you do it is what people remember how you do it. Because this is a fact here. His daughter is still going to Notre Dame. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
But it's a little rough.
Yeah, I seen it, and it's funny because she had a TikTok video showing that she, because she's getting ready to graduate. I think my memory serves correct.
5 months left. You couldn't wait till the Bears job, Brian.
But and it's funny. That's with that situation. Now, what I find, I think when I really sit down and think about it, I really think we need to start implementing at least a Power 5 commissioner or some nature, because the way college football, and I hate to say it like this, everybody's on their own. So, versus the NFL, there's a certain period that certain things have to be done. Versus here, it's almost like y'all are all together, and it's just it's almost like whoever's going to jump off the ship first. Because if you see somebody else jumping, instinct is going to tell you that, because you think about it simple fact of, okay, you look at the coaching carousel, they can't wait, because essentially early signing period is next week? A week from tomorrow, on the 15th. So they don't have time to kind of, and then the bowls and all that stuff is going on. So they have to have some type of period where they can do this, like the shuffling of coaches, the transfer portals, and all that kind of, to have it in that place, because every year you're gonna have that. Like you said, it's like what happened with Brian Kelly at Cincinnati. He was preparing those guys for a bowl game, and lo and behold, he came to Notre Dame.
Right.
I remember that too.
So I mean, I'm any Irish fan you talk to, Marcus Freeman's the guy. There are going to be some in the fan base that's questioning since he's the first head coach, because it's a crazy fan base. One is very entitled, the other is very football focused. Like you could talk X's and O's with them and stuff like that. I know on our podcast, Top of the Morning, for our Irish podcast, there's in our group, can be people who just love the move and people who just hate it. And I don't get why, because he's one of the head coaches where you messed up with not hiring Urban Saban. This is your second chance. And I think Notre Dame hit an absolute home run. And he's going to be there for, I say, probably about 10 years, because like Brian Kelly said, this is the kind of job that weighs on you. Okay. Yeah. You got to be a special person to kind of have that weight. Yeah. And I think he's the guy that gives us over the hump, because Kelly's not that guy.
Yeah. And like you said, and you look at it now where you're pretty much at now, where you literally was a Cincinnati win away from potentially being in the college football playoff. And like you said, and it's one, like you said, with Marcus Freeman, where a lot of people, but it's like you said, you got to be a head coach somewhere. So that's my biggest thing, where he's played at obviously at a high level at Ohio State, been to the NFL. He's, been coaching for almost just about 10 years now. So you look at this as fact of, and he worked his way up, like you said, and that's why I never understand. It's like you said, you really can't never please everybody, because, you don't want a guy. People always say, well, we don't want a guy that don't have any coaching experience. But then you got a guy who has coaching experience for 10 years, and he's been at multiple levels and have, he's worked his way up. And you just look at how, even his credentials was gonna, people wanted him in NFL. I know Brable wanted him. Was it because he took? Yeah, that's right. Because he took y'all coordinated job, because I know what's his face, Brable in Tennessee wanted him. As I forgot what, I think he was like a linebacker coach, some type of coach. He wanted him as a coach there. But this type of guy that you want, a guy that even though he's not a head coach, but he has experience. He's not like a fresh out of college hire. So like you said, and then you want a situation where you can, and that's good to retain guys, because we all know you look what's going on in Norman, Oklahoma. Oh, look, no, man. Everybody taking a first plane out of Norman, Oklahoma. And then also, we'll probably see the trickle effects maybe in Eugene, Oregon, potentially with Cristobal at Miami. But a lot of those guys that, once that coach leaves, it's a mass exodus. Because I think, it was another school that a lot of guys are leaving. Oh, I think it's UVA. Yeah, UVA. I've seen a lot of guys leaving UVA after Mendenhall left. So to me, that's a great way to retain your talent, especially like with Notre Dame, where the talent pool does get a little bit a little smaller due to the academic requirements at Notre Dame. But yeah, definitely, like you said, and that's funny that I always laugh at it, because we talked about Marcus Freeman like real heavy on your podcast about that, and
yeah, for sure. And plus, it just seems funny that the 5 stars are reigning in now. All of a sudden, the Marcus Freeman came to town. Where Kelly, he was good at kind of getting that 3-star, 4-star to up there, but he's not good at finishing. And LSU is going to find that out. I mean, even though it's easier to recruit down in South when your requirement's probably a 2.0 versus a 4.0, and you have to be super athletic to begin with for Notre Dame. I mean, it's different. It's different environment.
But he got that $85 million buyout, so there's a reason. Brian Kelly
There's
like,
the
look,
reason.
let me go about 3 years, but you're gonna have to pay me $85 million. Like, trust me.
Right.
He
It's
ain't dumb.
ridiculous.
He ain't dumb. He got a Notre Dame education thinking like that.
I mean, to me, honestly, LSU, yeah, they hired the big well, but there's one guy that got fired from Carolina that would have been very nice in that gold and purple, Mr.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Brady.
Yeah.
He might be very nice in that Oregon color as well. If he's not in the kind of head coaching range, we'll take him over here in Notre Dame. Because you're telling me Coach O, who's been middle level coach for decades, wins a chip, and it's because of him, because he recruited him from New Orleans, and getting Joe Burrow to look like what he was and became. Okay, yeah.
And he'll have opportunities. And I think Matt Rule kind of fired him at the right time. So I think that's kind of a good thing for him when he can get any, he can get a decent job somewhere. He may not get, he can get a Power 5 offer, no doubt. But yeah. So you guys got a date with Oklahoma State in the New Year's Six Bowl. Your thoughts on that potential matchup coming up?
See, a lot of Irish fans are mad that they missed playoffs. Where I'm ecstatic. You know why I'm ecstatic? Because we're not going to get blown out in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, that's true.
And then we're going to build off recruiting because most likely we're either going to win by a close game or blow out Oklahoma State, because I don't see the talent dips because the conference. I think, honestly, the conference thing, Notre Dame should stay independent. And I know that's not what people think and this and that with ACC, but as somebody who's from the ACC with the North Carolina Tar Heels, why would we as Irish fans want that? Because the extra championship game, that's the only thing perk-wise, because your schedule immediately goes down because you play Ohio State next year, and your gimme game is BYU in the neutral site. I mean, like, you can look at how bad the schedule is this year, but before the season, if you're not an educated Irish fan like me, you're looking at it like, oh, this is a tough schedule here. But I knew going into the season it was not a tough schedule. I knew Cincinnati had a chance to beat us. I knew North Carolina had a chance to beat us. Wisconsin was a little bit, okay. Well, don't be surprised. And then we knew we were going to play tough games against Toledo and Purdue. I mean, that's just how Notre Dame is. And with Brian Kelly, hopefully it's changed with Freeman.
Yeah. And like you said, like we've, because Notre Dame, even without being a conference allegiance, they still was on the verge of making college football playoff. They were literally a game away of beating Cincinnati, and I think that would have helped propel them potentially if we looked at how the success is. And then now you're looking at how the playoff field is going to expand. So there's really no need for you, like you said, to go to ACC, get you one extra game for what? Because like you said, if you like with Notre Dame, like you said, you can get maybe a 2 or 3 top 25, top 15 on your schedule each year, which you will, it's Notre Dame. So they'll be able to get those type of opponents. They're not going to be like a Cincinnati who's going to try to fish for an opponent or other non-Power 5 conference. Everybody want to play Notre Dame because the money's there. So you look at that for standpoint, and then the way they do an expansion, why not? Because we're going to have teams that's going to not make the conference championship, going to make the playoff. They're going to make it. So, especially as it expands. So there's really no need for, unless you had a situation like last year where with the travel restrictions, not being able to go to get, like obviously like to USC, Stanford, going to the West Coast, whatever.
Right.
And then it's okay to have a conference allegiance, but no, like to me, it's pointless. Like you said, and then playing the ACC championship last year, it's just like, what I gotta prove.
I mean, The only conference that would make sense for them would never happen. Would be the Big Ten. I mean, you got your rivals right there in the backyard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue. You can even build a rivalry with Indiana, maybe an Ohio State as well. And I think that's a no-brainer play, either Stanford or – but there's so much history why that's never going to happen. So, I mean, Irish fans who want a conference, I mean, it's most likely in the ACC, and you don't want that because the level of the kid you're going to get now, you may not get after you destroy ACC. Just look at Clemson after that decade of dominance. They're going to go downhill real quick, even though Dabo is one of the best coaches in college football.
Yeah, I'm really curious how they're going to bounce back, you know, from, you know, when we looked at that team as a team that was, you know, we thought was going to make the college football playoff. And lo and behold, they're in what? I forgot what bowl they're in. They're in like a – because I forgot who they play. I think it's Mississippi State. No, I forgot what bowl they're in, but they're in like a second tier bowl. Like they're in a bowl that's like, you know, before New Year's, which is normally never happens, you know, when we think about Clemson. But it has been like a downhill effect all year. But yeah. So let's transition to some college basketball. And perfect timing for you, Josh, because of course, your Purdue Boilermakers are number one in the country, and a very historic feat at this point. It's the first time y'all have ever been number one ranked in you know.
Yeah.
So this is an historic run. So your thoughts so far on this 8-0 Boilermakers team?
I mean, they got it all. They got an inside game with Williams, and their 7-footer Zach Eden, and then Ivy. Oh my God! Since he came back, he's just lights out. I mean, freshmen like that usually do not come back. But for Purdue, they're lucky. Painter's just an absolute stud as a coach, as he always is. And I just think Purdue, they were seventh. They were going into it like one of the favorites, but nobody saw it coming like, oh, we're going to be number one, because Gonzaga, again, has a 7-foot beast that just plays like Kevin Durant, okay? And Tommy, that's just – dude, he's just thick, you know? And then guard play, that's pretty good. But I think Purdue's going to have a tough time in the Big Ten still. I mean, there's just so many good teams in the Big Ten. Non-conference has shown that they're really good, but still, it's like the Wild Wild West up here.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, like you said, Purdue is one of those teams that we kind of looked at like you said, not to a point where looking at them now at 8-0, but they're doing their thing obviously with that, and hopefully this can prepare them to a run in March potentially. But we don't want to put the cart before the horse. We're just like I said, like I said, we just enjoy the ride now while it's here. So, who has been your biggest surprises in college basketball thus far?
Biggest surprises. Okay. I would say, I know this isn't like a popular pick because Duke was one of those favorite teams, but just coming back with Coach K being his last year, with all the different like things that were going storylines before the year, even with his grandson and with the star player with the DUI, somehow that got erased. But just to be even keel still, I think that's one of the biggest surprises of the year. And the talent, again, has just shown up, I think, because the COVID year, this year they got a chance to actually gel in practice, where Kentucky, Duke, the one-done teams last year didn't have that chance, where it's, we practice a little bit here. Oh, COVID hit us here. We're not going to practice here. So when you have a one-done team like they did, you can't really gel as a unit, where I think this Duke team is somewhat gelling right now, but it's a long year. long year. So that's probably one of my biggest surprises, even though they're probably going to be like, oh, you Dookie. Oh, yeah. Why is that a big surprise when they have one of the best freshmen in the country? It's a surprise because of all the stuff that happened around it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And like you said, and it's funny that to think that's really has happened in the last few weeks. And it's crazy, like how when you sit down, you think about it, how like you said, that's something that you remember, but it's like it went away like drastically. I remember that it was a big story at the time, and then all of a sudden it's just like, well, there's nothing to see here. you know?
I mean, I wonder why it was swept under the rug. Coach K's last year, star player.
Yeah. And that's what, and a lot of it too, where the fanfare and the love fest that continues with Coach K's final year. So, like you're saying, it's that is concerned. So, any disappointments thus far in college basketball that you got?
So far, it's very, very early, but right now it's Michigan. You got Howard, who's supposed to be this otherworldly coach coming in from the Fab 5 days, their glory days from Michigan, even though they just blew out a okay team in Nebraska today. But 5-3, when you're set above Purdue in the pre-rankings as 6th, and now you're not even ranked, I would say that's probably the biggest one right now, because a lot of things can happen, especially, like I said before, you get a couple of good wins under you.
Yeah.
You only need 20. I mean, honestly. But you might only need 17 for Syracuse. But I mean, it is what it is. I would say my Irish too.
Yeah.
But I mean, they haven't been good in 5 years, so it's not a surprise. So I love every Indiana team. Another big surprise would be IU being up there. The Mike Woodson effect was going to happen, but you didn't think it was going to happen this quick, because you forget that Archie Miller actually recruited decent players, just didn't know how to coach with the decent players, where Woodson has that NBA background and he's kind of gelling the team right now. And I used to do a Hoosier podcast with this guy who's other than Norn for Hoosier sports and stuff like that. And he's like, watch out. They might be a Sweet 16, maybe a Elite 18 this year. And I was like, huh.
Right.
Like, no chance. But I mean, your record is what your record is. Let's see how they do in the Big Ten. Like I said, it's like Wild Wild West. But Hoosiers looking decent this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and and that's one thing too. Yeah, like you said, with that situation with like Michigan, obviously, they Carolina beat them handily in that game, especially after their kind of tumultuous season thus far. You look at like the loss of Tennessee early on, and then bouncing back against that Michigan team. And Michigan looked very flat in that game last week. So yeah. Big time. And like you said, maybe it's a situation where maybe because Michigan's going to football has propelled maybe, a little bit, a little bit of that momentum went to the football team. So, who's to say? Right. And yep. So, the Wolverines, on the college football playoff, surprisingly. But it's probably why, potentially.
I mean, could it be a Space Jam thing where Harbaugh just got some of Howard's magic from the previous year and just rolling with it, because he hasn't beat Ohio State in 8 tries.
Yes.
Before today, or before this magical run for Michigan, what they are. But George is coming to town, and I think the Dogs are pretty pissed off with they're getting absolutely just demolished by
big
Alabama.
Time. But so put a ball on this week's Couch Coach Live. So Josh, tell them where they can find you on social media.
Okay, so you can
find us on YouTube
on Regan's Corner Sports Podcast Network. We do all sports under the sun. We do high school broadcasts as well. You can find us at www.reganscorner.com. Same thing on Google, Facebook, Spotify, Instagram, and we have kind of surprises coming up here. We added two really good people from Florida State University, and I can't wait for their podcast there pretty soon. But we kind of go wherever we have college athletes just whenever we want. Okay, at this point, interviewed and stuff like that. So if you want to go see one of those interviews and stuff like that, it's all on YouTube channel. And Coach, thank you for having me on the pod. But I can't wait for this college basketball season. Like Dickie V would say, it's a bunch of PT peers, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Once again, another great show. Yeah, man. Definitely excited about college basketball season as well. And then also what you guys gonna do on New Year's in Arizona? With the Marcus Freeman's debut, and and see how Oklahoma State rebound after that. After a really heartbreaking loss that they had in the Big 12 championship. So them being a yard short of actually being in the BCS. So they get to have that, but that's definitely gonna be an interesting one. And so also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram under Couch Coach Live. Also check out the podcast anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, you name it, we're there. Then also the Washington Football Guys on Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then also we have the post-game shows following the outcome of the Washington football team's games on Sundays. Generally, this Sunday will be at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, once again, definitely appreciate you for coming on, Josh. And once again, man, this has been this week's Couch Coach Live, and we'll catch you guys next week. And we out. Sure.